don't sleep on the Sun Belt. Sure, this conference may not produce a college football playoff team, but it is a much deeper conference than you think. Both divisions are expected to be very competitive in 2025. Last year, 8 of their 14 conference members made a bowl game, and this year, we're predicting even more to reach the postseason. It's going to be a very fun conference, which is maybe why it's called the Fun Belt. And today, we have predicted every single game for every single Sun Belt team, and we're going to share with you our projected records, our projected standings, and who we believe will win the Sun Belt in 2025. So let's go ahead and start. We'll start over in the East Division, where that to me is a bit of a runaway. I think the Western Division is going to be more competitive in terms of who's fighting for that top spot, that division crown. The East is going to be competitive, maybe with better teams, but James Madison, the overwhelming favorite, not just in the East Division, but in the Sun Belt as a whole. We do have the Dukes at 10-2, undefeated in conference play this year. And we actually predicted their entire schedule game by game with an individual James Madison video just a few days ago. But I mean, the Dukes are loaded, right? They went 9-4 last year in year 1 under Bob Chesney. Now in year 2, they've got Alonzo Barnett coming back, and if he's not fully healthy, because he did tear his ACL in last year's season finale, they've got Matthew Sluka, who was phenomenal with Chesney at Holy Cross and then phenomenal at UNLV last year before he decided to quit the team. So this is the James Madison team that has 2 capable quarterbacks that can run the ball. They've got 3 really good running backs. They've got 6 starters back on defense, a defense that only gave up 20.5 points per game. All their bigger games get to come at home. They host App State, Georgia Southern, and Louisiana. So this is a James Madison team that the schedule sets up perfectly, the team sets up perfectly. Anything less than an appearance in the Sun Belt Championship, and maybe anything less than a Sun Belt title, would be viewed as a disappointment. Behind them, their biggest competitor, I think, would be Georgia Southern, who is 7-5 in our eyes and 5-3 in conference play. They went 8-5 last year, so a minor step back for the Eagles, and maybe that's because their schedule is a little bit tougher. But one of the things that I'm concerned about for Georgia Southern, more than anything, is they've got to improve at quarterback. J.C. French is a veteran, and I think he'll do well in Clay Helton's offense again, but he had 17 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. If Georgia Southern wants to take that next step, he's got to do a better job of taking care of the football. Wasn't that fantastic throughout the regular season, was not good in their bowl game last year. So the offense has talent. 2 of their top 3 wide receivers return as well, but French has got to take a bigger step forward in this offense. They also have to improve on defense. 7 starters are back, but they gave up over 400 yards per game. Again, Georgia Southern going to be a solid team. They're going to finish with a winning record. They're going to go to a bowl game. I have no doubt about that, but not good enough to claim an East Division crown. Behind them, 3-way tie for third, Old Dominion, Coastal Carolina, and App State. All very interesting teams to watch out for this year that really haven't lived up to their expectations. App State struggled last year at 5-6. Coastal went 6-7. Old Dominion at 5-7. So all 3 of those teams had a losing record last year. Only one of them, Coastal Carolina, made a bowl game. We think all 3 make a bowl game and are more competitive in the league this year. Start with Old Dominion, though. It might be surprising to see them at third, winning the tiebreaker over the Chanticleers and the Mountaineers. But I like this Monarchs team. I like this Monarchs team a lot. They were 5-7 last year, but had 6 one-possession losses. So this was a very good team, a much better team, I think their record shows. And I think that's going to translate to more success now in 2025. 1 or 2 wins. Old Dominion is a 7, maybe 8 win team, at least a bowl team, and it wouldn't be surprising to see them in this spot, right? They've got a dual threat quarterback in Colton Joseph. They've got 3 of their top 4 tacklers returning. Jason Henderson, one of the best linebackers, not just in the Sun Belt, but in America when he's healthy, does return for the Monarchs. So you get your leader on defense, better offense that should improve. Ricky Rane believes that this is the best team he's had yet. I also believe that. I think they can get to 6-6. Old Dominion should be a bowl team, and they're 1 or 2 upsets away from making things very interesting in the Eastern Division. Coastal Carolina, 6-6, 4-4. I like the duo of MJ Morris at quarterback, transferring in from Maryland, and Javin Simpkins at running back. This is a Coastal Carolina team that can run the ball very well, and they've got I think, capable quarterback and obviously a capable running back to do so. 3 starters back on defense, though, after giving up 414 yards per game and 186 rushing yards per game, so they've got to improve on that side of the ball. A lot of new pieces for the Chanticleers, so certainly some question marks on both sides of the ball. I expect a similar year to last year. I think they're still fairly competitive. I think they're definitely a bowl team, but they're not going to be that 8-9 win team that we were used to seeing a few years ago. But the Chanticleers kind of right there in the middle of the pack, but once again making a bowl game. App State, despite having a better overall record than Old Dominion and Coastal Carolina, losing through the tie-breaking methods to the Monarchs and the Chanticleers, got them at 7-5 in year 1 under Dowell Loggins. So a brand new head coach. Certainly some questions surrounding this Mountaineers team. Again, it's interesting. not the fall of some of the powers, but just how drastically things can change in such a short amount of time. A couple of years ago, Coastal was that heavy favorite in the East. App State typically was that team that was winning anywhere from 8 to 10 games, and the Mountaineers have struggled a little bit as of late. Again, last year 5-6, 7-5 is better. Winning season in a bowl game, but maybe not where they want to be. But again, new head coach, only like 7 total starters coming back. New quarterback in A.J. Swan transferring in. Rashad DeBinion, though, a solid running back transferring in. The defense certainly going to be better than people realize. Just don't think App State is to the point, especially with a new head coach and a lot of new pieces, to be that legitimate contender in the East this year. But regardless, a solid bounce back year, a rare losing season. First-year head coach, which is typically what happens. We've seen a lot of turnover at head coach in the last probably 10 years or so at App State. They do find a way to get to the postseason. And then Georgia State and Marshall round out this division. 3-9 for Georgia State. I think they're improved. I think they're more competitive. I think the stats improve, but their schedule is just really, really tough. Really tough. In the non-conference, they play Ole Miss, Memphis, and Vanderbilt. They did beat Vanderbilt last year, but I think the Commodores are going to take care of business this year. And then in conference play, of course, all the top teams in the East, right? That's what you do in your division. You got to play James Madison, Georgia Southern, got to play App State. It's just a really, really tough schedule. They're going to be underdogs in the majority of the games they play. Again, I think they're more competitive, but nowhere to the point of really competing at a high level and getting to the postseason. So 3-9, 2 of those 3 wins, though, coming in conference play. And then Marshall, literally a first to worst situation for the Thundering Herd, and that's really because their head coach, Charles Huff, and pretty much all their players left to go to Southern Miss. Marshall went 10-3 last year. They won the Sun Belt. We now have them at 3-9, 1-7 in conference play in year 1 under Tony Gibson. Again, when all of your star players that helped you win that conference championship leave to go to another school, including your head coach as well, and now you've got a first-year head coach with a lot of questions on both sides of the ball, it's not going to add up to a great winning season. So it's not your typical first-to-worst situation because this is nowhere near the same Marshall team we saw last year. The Thundering Herd going to struggle mightily in 2025, but they will bounce back in the years to come. So that's in the East. James Madison, the overwhelming favorite. They will be in the Sun Belt Championship. Who will they play out of the West, though? It's going to be the same team that represented the West last year, and that is Louisiana at 8-4, 5-3. But a little bit of a closer race there. I mean, literally one game separating Louisiana in first to Troy, who is in second to last. So while I don't think the teams in the West are necessarily better than the teams in the East, I do think the gap between the top team and maybe the second to last team is a lot smaller than that of James Madison and everybody else, if that makes sense. So we do have Louisiana getting there, though. They won the West last year. They were 10-2 in the regular season and then lost their final 2 games to Marshall in the Sun Belt Championship and then in a blowout fashion to TCU in their bowl game. They now add Walker Howard at quarterback, finally getting his shot, transferring in from Ole Miss. Think talent-wise, he's phenomenal. Got a great arm, finally getting his shot to be a starter after some stints in the SEC didn't really pan out. Their top 2 rushers returned for the Raging Cajuns as well. Wide receivers, really the only question mark for Louisiana, but 4 starters are back on defense, a defense that's maybe going to be one of the better in the Sun Belt this year. I like this team a lot. I like this team quite a bit. I think everybody's going to point to the losses from last year, and certainly those are big, but they did a decent job in the portal, replacing some of those guys. Do have some solid returners coming back. Their head coach remains. Louisiana, my pick to win the West at 8-4, 5-3. Right behind them, though, South Alabama, and really, it's tough. I mean, South Alabama to Texas State, all going 6-6. I think these teams truly are just going to beat up on one another. That's kind of what we typically do see in the Sun Belt. So you could, honestly, I think could argue that second place in the West is very interchangeable. I would not be shocked to see Texas State in that spot. I would not be shocked to see Arkansas State in that spot. It's like four straight teams at 6-6, only one game separating South Alabama to Texas State. So again, pick your poison. It's not going to matter. They're not going to the championship game. I don't think either of these teams really exceed 7 wins. South Alabama, though, I like them a lot. They got Zach Pyron transferring in from Georgia Tech, or Bishop Davenport, who showed some flashes of brilliance last year as well. So I think some competent quarterback play with Major Applewhite as their head coach. They also return Kentrell Bullock at running back, so you got competent quarterback play, solid running back play. Their top tackler returns. They get to host some big games. They're hosting Coastal Carolina. They're hosting Louisiana. They're hosting Southern Miss. They're hosting Arkansas State. So some of the bigger games they've got to play are at home. Major Applewhite led this team to a 7-win season last year, 6-6 with a bowl win. I think he can do it again, 6-6 for the Jaguars. Behind them, Arkansas State. All of their top offensive playmakers return, right? Dual threat quarterback Jalen Rayner returns. Jaquez Cross returns at running back. 1,000-yard receiver Corey Rucker returns. That's really, really good. but the offensive line's horrendous. One offensive line starter back after giving up 33 sacks. Even worse, their defense. Arkansas State's defense gave up over 32 points per game, over 460 yards per game. They have to improve drastically on the side of the ball if they really want to compete for a Western Division crown. They certainly can. They've got the talent. I'm a big fan of Butch Jones. This team, though, went 8-5 last year, which is a great season for them. Back-to-back bowl appearances, winning season last year, but it should be noted that 7 of their 8 wins were by 1 possession. And typically when you see a team not get lucky, and I'm not saying that A-State was lucky, but when they win so many close games, it's very hard to keep that type of success going. It's hard to continue to replicate that because eventually you are going to be on the wrong side of some very close games like that. I think A-State's luck, and again, I'm not saying it's all luck, but luck runs out. They still make a bowl game. It'll be their 3rd straight bowl appearance, but a minor step back due to the little bit of a tougher schedule. They play Arkansas and Iowa State in the non-conference. Iowa State, though, coming to Jonesboro. Keep an eye on that one. Due to the tougher schedule, due to the issues on defense, due to the issues in the trenches, A-State, though, still 6-6, 4-4, will be in a bowl game for the 3rd straight year. Southern Miss, how about that? We mentioned it earlier with Marshall. A Southern Miss team that went 1-11 last year, we now have going 6-6. Again, because it's not the same team. It's a completely different team. Charles Huff led Marshall to a Sun Belt title, leaves Marshall, comes to Southern Miss, brings 25 players with him. He brought so many players with him to Southern Miss that Marshall couldn't even play in their bowl game last year. He brings 25 players from Marshall with him, including their star quarterback Braylon Braxton. This is a Southern Miss team that I don't expect them to replicate the success they had at Marshall. It's still going to be hard to build a lot of chemistry. Even the players that played together last year, there's a handful of other guys too, building that chemistry in a new place, in a new environment, with a different schedule, in a different division. I'm not expecting Southern Miss to immediately go on to win the West, but they should be in a bowl game. They should be in a bowl game. They got some tough road games at Louisiana Tech, who's going to be good in the Conference USA, at Georgia Southern, at Louisiana. They play Mississippi State in the season opener, so some tough games in there. But Charles Huff, I do think is a phenomenal coach. I do think he's got the talent. Southern Miss, obviously much more competitive than they were last year, clearly, and they will be in the postseason. And they'll be in the postseason alongside Texas State as well, who's coming off back-to-back 8-win seasons. But kind of like Arkansas State, a couple other teams here, takes a minor step back due to how much they lose. They lose their star quarterback. They lose their top running back. They lose their top 3 pass catchers. They lose 4 of their top 5 tacklers. So G.J. Kinney is a good recruiter. He's a great offensive mind. I think you'll still have this team competing at a high level. Again, one win away or one game back from playing for the Western Division crown. So they've got the talent there, but again, some tough road games, obviously in conference play, and then in non-conference have to go to UTSA and to Arizona State, who they played close last year. Don't think the same can be said again this year. Again, the Bobcats, he's doing a great job with this team. I just think don't replicate the success they've had, but should still be in a bowl game, which to me is considered a successful season. The only 2 teams that do miss out are Troy and ULM. Troy just barely missing out. 5-7, 4-4. I think they improved from last year. They were 4-8, 3-5 in conference play, so they improved by a win in both columns. I like Goose Crowder at quarterback, but they do lose their top 2 rushers, their top 2 pass catchers. The defense is solid. I think the defense could be underrated, but the non-conference schedule is brutal. At Clemson, Memphis, at Buffalo, who's going to be a really good team out of the MAC this year. So they won 9 games last year. So this Troy team, if they can win just one non-conference game, it would have to come against Memphis or Buffalo, could go bowling. They're going to be very competitive. I think they fall just short, and the same can be said for ULM. They were 5-7 last year. They started 5-1 and lost their final 6 games. It looked like it could be a special year for the Warhawks, who have only been to 1 bowl game in program history. That streak of only 1 continues, at least a little longer. 3-9, 2 of those 3 wins in conference play. The offense, though, I don't think improves as much as it needs to. They only averaged 21 points per game last year. The defense allowed over 200 rushing yards per game last year. Now they lose their top 3 tacklers. I like this team. I like their head coach, but I don't think they have enough to truly compete in the Sun Belt this year and for the bowl game. So 3-9, a bit of a step back, and that wraps up the Western Division. So your Sun Belt Championship from us here at the Gridiron Expert will be Louisiana at James Madison, and we will have James Madison winning the conference. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm very, very high on the Dukes this year. I think they are the most experienced team within this conference. I think they're the most talented team in this conference. So for the first time in program history, not only does James Madison make the Sun Belt Championship game, they win the Sun Belt Championship, and the Dukes will clinch their second 11-win season in the last 3 years. Unfortunately, that won't be good enough to get them to the college football playoff. 2 losses going to keep them out with a fairly weak strength of schedule. Probably going to end up losing out to a team like Boise State out of the Mountain West. So no playoff for the Dukes as that group of 5 representative. But an 11-win season will go to a very good bowl game, a shot at a 12-win season, and Bob Chesney doing a fantastic job in just his second year with the program. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Do not miss out on those. Again, the link down in the description below, along with our weekly newsletters, also over on thegridironexpert.com. Take advantage of those. Become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.